بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, today being the 13th of Rabi al-Awwal, it befits us to remember the fact that this month is, from the perspective of the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the most significant month in the Islamic year. And this is the month in which humanity was blessed with the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before his advent, the entire humanity was lost in darkness. Not only the Arabian Peninsula, but so-called civilized nations of Rome and Persia were also drowning in the ignorance, in superstitions, oppression, dhulm, in unrest. It was Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, our beloved Prophet, who came with ilm, with knowledge, with hidayat, with guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the revelation, with wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the kalima of tawheed, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, and with this eternal truth, and provided the foundation for faith, such faith which provides a firm basis for humanity to find the purpose of their life in this world and prepare for the hereafter. So, from this perspective, the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can be considered to be the most significant and most remarkable event in the history of humanity. And as Muslims, we believe that. At the same time, moving forward after first establishing that, we believe that in Islamic teachings, if there had been any room for ritually celebrating birthdays, then there is no birthday that deserves more celebration than the birthday of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this we find in our Islamic teachings from the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself and the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum ajma'in, those who loved him more than anyone else, those who loved Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than they loved their parents, more than they loved their children, more than they loved anyone. We do not find them necessarily ritually celebrating the birthday of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is how Islam is different from Judaism, Christianity and Hinduism, in which we only have two Eids in the year, two ritual days of celebration. One is the Eid al-Fitr and one is the Eid al-Adha. And the dates of both of these Eids do not correspond to the birth date of any individual nor the death date of any individual, nor are they the anniversary of any particular event. And they cannot be linked to the date of birth of any outstanding person in Islamic history, nor to any particular event that occurred. Rather, both of these days have been prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as days of shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and expressing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the completion of ibadat. And they are linked with ibadat. With respect to Eid al-Fitr, this philosophy of Eid al-Fitr is explained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the famous passage where he's speaking about fasting, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O those who believe, fasting has been prescribed upon you like upon nations prior to you so that you may attain taqwa. And then moving forward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Qur'an hudan lin-nas. This is the month of Ramadan in which the Qur'an has been revealed as a source of guidance for all mankind. Then next ayat Allah ta'ala says, وَلِتُكْمِلُ الْعِدَّةِ. Then you complete the days of fasting. وَلِتُكَبِّرُ اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ. And then you make the takbirs at the end of the Ramadan, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar wa lillahi alhamd, wa la'allakum tashkurun. To thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the tawfiq and guidance, that through His tawfiq you are able to fast in the month of Ramadan, you are able to make qiyam in the night, you are able to complete the tilawat of the Quran, you are able to give sadaqah. So this is linked with the ibadat of Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr. And Eid al-Adha is of course linked with the ibadah of Hajj and Udhiyah and sacrifice, which both of them happen to be great pillars of our Islam. So this is one difference between our festivals, our ritual festivals in our deen versus the festivals of other religions, where they are based upon individuals and different events, historic events. Our Eids are based upon ibadat and showing shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so that is the one difference. Second difference is the manner prescribed for the celebration of these Eids. Is also different from the non-Islamic festivals, how we are supposed to celebrate them. We do not have in our deen formal processions or marches or illuminations where we are lighting up candles or such activities to express formal happiness. On the other hand, instead of that, we have 5 daily prayers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mandated every day for us, every day of the year, of the calendar year, every day of our life. But on these days, there's a 6th additional prayer. There's an additional congregational prayer that is performed in Jummah, the Salatul Eid. And there is, of course, it is permitted, not only permitted, it's the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to visit relatives. Yes, that part is there. We can have mutual visitations and meet and greet one another. And such social activity is permitted and part of the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to express happiness. Giving of gifts, that part is permissible. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, tahaddu, tahabbu, that give gifts to one another, this will increase love between each other. But beyond this, we see that in Islam, no matter how significant a person might be, there is no formal observance of their birthdays. And we do not deny that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself is the highest status Allah has granted him amongst all of humanity. There can be no doubt in that. But neither did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam nor his noble companions. In all the narrations that we have, we can find any single narration, even a weak narration, in which they were ritually observing the birthdays or anniversaries. And this does not take away anything from the fact, as we repeatedly mentioned, that we honestly, sincerely believe, and we must believe as a Muslim, that the happiest day for entire mankind was the day in which the Rasulullah ﷺ himself was born and entered into this world. So, how long did the Sahaba radiallahu anhum in their blessed era continue after Rasulullah ﷺ? Till the last Sahabi was alive, we can see that this would take us all the way to nearly a century after Rasulullah ﷺ left. And despite their unparalleled love, profound attachment to Rasulullah ﷺ, they did not celebrate his birthday, nor did they celebrate the day or have any function on the day he left this world. Instead, what was their practice was that they devoted their lives to promote the cause of Islam, to spread the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bringing his teachings into their practice, conveying his message to the 4 corners of the world, and they were establishing the Islamic way of life in all walks of life. So this is the behavior of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and our deen. On the other hand, of course, not only today is the 13th of Rabiul Awal, but it's also the 25th of December, the day which is celebrated by Christmas, as Christmas by the Christians. If we go back and look at the origin of Christmas itself, we find that commemorating the birth of a distinguished person has never been prescribed by any religion that attributes itself to divine revelation. So the other religions as well, even Christianity, if you go back in the original teachings, this was not necessarily part of their teachings at all. This is what the Christians themselves accept. It was originally a custom prevalent in pagan communities only. those who are mushrikeen, those who worship different spirits and different gods, different idols, this was something that originated from them. So if you look through the Bible and the early teachings in the early Christian writings, there is no mention of Christmas or celebration of this holiday. Christmas originated 4 centuries after Isa alayhi salam was returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is when Christmas was recognized as a regular Christian feast. So, to quote from the Christian resources themselves, they say, "It is impossible to determine the exact date of the birth of Jesus Christ, either from the evidence of the Gospels or from any sound tradition." So if the whole celebration is regarding his birthday, and we see those nativity scenes where they have the baby and the priests, and they're coming and looking at the baby, and they have the pictures of and statues of Maryam alayhi salam along with the baby. So this is all revolving around the birth of Isa alayhi salam. But they admit that it is impossible to determine the exact date of the birth of Isa alayhi salam. During the first 3 centuries of the Christian era, this is very significant and ironic, you will find that there was considerable opposition in the church to the pagan custom of celebrating birthdays. So there was a strong opposition against this, that this is the way of the mushrikeen, this is the way of the idol worshippers, this is not a Christian way, we should not celebrate birthdays. First reference there is the Clement of Alexandria in Egypt. He mentions the existence of the feast in Egypt about the year AD 200. And we have some evidence that it was observed on various dates in scattered areas. So there were different dates. They did not have a consensus on which date should be celebrated. Different areas, they started celebrating on different dates. After the triumph of Constantine, the Eastern Roman Emperor, the church at Rome assigned December 25 as the date for the celebration of the feast. This happened in the year AD 353. So 353 years after Isa alayhi salam left this world, then they finally concluded that, okay, we'll celebrate it on today, December 25. By the end of the 4th century, then the whole Christian world began celebrating Christmas on that day, with the exception of the Eastern churches, were continued to be celebrated on January 6th. So there is the Eastern church, they continue to celebrate on the January 6th, and the Western church, the Roman church, they celebrate on 25th of December. And what is the reason why they selected the 25th of December? Is that this is a very famous statement, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So this is not without any basis. This actually goes back to many different practices of the Christians. When they came in Rome, they literally did as the Romans did. They adopted many of the Roman practices. So the choice of December 25 was influenced by the fact that it was on this date, 25th of December, the Romans celebrated the Mithridatic feast of the sun god, and that the Saturnalia also came at this time. So this was the day when those who were worshipping the sun, they saw that, as we see that the days are getting shorter and shorter, so they became afraid, those who were worshipping the sun, that the sun god is getting upset with us and is not coming out as long as it used to in the summer. We have to worship the sun god. So when it came to the shortest days of the years, they used to worship the sun god and make puja and ibadah of the sun, so that the sun becomes happy and starts coming out for longer periods of time. So this is the origin of this December 25, and then after they would be doing the ibadah and worshipping the sun, and then we see 26, 27, 28, in January, February, what happens? The sun continues to come for longer periods of time in the day. And now, of course, through science, we are all aware and fully know that this has nothing to do with their worship of the sun. The sun, of course, is a makhlooq. الشمس والقمر بحسبان. The sun and the moon, they are set on the calculation by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Actually, this has nothing to do with the sun. In fact, this has to do with the tilt of the earth. On its axis, the northern hemisphere tilts towards the sun. That's our summer months. Then the northern hemisphere tilts away from the sun, is our winter months. And the seasons in the southern hemisphere are the opposite. That is why when we were in South Africa, June, July, August were the coldest freezing months of the year. In December, January were the hottest months. It's the opposite. So this has to do with the tilting of the earth towards the sun or away from the sun. But this is the date that they were worshipping the sun, on the 25th of December. And that is why the Christians said, okay, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Let's start our celebration on this day. It has nothing to do with Isa alayhi salam at all. This is the reality. A similar description of the origin of Christmas is found in the Encyclopedia Britannica. What does it say in Encyclopedia Britannica? Christmas was not amongst the earliest festivals of the church. It was not amongst the earliest festivals of the church, and before 5th century there was no general consensus of opinion as to when it should come in the calendar. January 6th was one opinion, March 25th another opinion, December 25th. The earliest identification of December 25th is found in one particular Philos of Antioch, that he came up with this idea. He said, okay, let's celebrate on the 25th. As late as 245, great Christian teacher Origen reputed the idea of keeping the birthday of Christ. He said, this is as if we are making Jesus a king of Pharaoh. So he was writing against it. He said, no, this is wrong, we should not do this. So, there are further quotes, I will skip over that. What the conclusion we can reach from all of this is that the commemoration of birthdays of kings or of gods, this is originally what? A pagan custom from the mushrikeen. It was never recognized by divine scripture or a prophetic teaching. The exact date of the birth of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam is unknown, and it is impossible to be ascertained. We cannot tell for certain when exactly was the date of the birth of Isa alayhi salam. And third point we can realize is that the commemoration of the birth of Isa alayhi salam was not a recognized practice in the early period of the Christian history. In the 5th century, that is when it was recognized as a religious feast. And this was also under the influence of the pagans who were worshipping the sun god. And lastly, we can also see that there was a strong opposition against commemorating birthdays by early Christian scholars like Origen and other Roman scholars on the ground that it is originally a custom of pagans and idolaters. So this goes back to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum. Whoever adopts customs and rituals of a particular nation will become amongst them. So we can see what happened to Christianity. What was the original teaching of Isa alayhi salam, how over time it changed and it morphed and it was destroyed, and nothing is left of the original teachings. And this is a warning for us not to follow their footsteps. But it was also prophesied by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that you will be following the footsteps of the Jews and the Christians step by step, until if they fell into a hole and got bit, you will fall into the same hole and get bitten. And that is what we are seeing. Now let us come back onto our Islamic teachings. Original Islamic resources. In original Islamic resources, we do not find any particular instruction about the celebration of birthdays or death anniversaries. Many companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they passed away during his lifetime. Some of them were very close to him. His beloved uncle Hamza radiallahu anhu passed away in the battle of Uhud. He was martyred. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very much grieved by his loss. Likewise, we have his brother from Akhu min al-Radha'a, Uthman ibn Mad'un radiallahu anhu, was the first muhajir who passed away. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very, very sad when he passed away and buried him in Jannatul Baqir. His beloved son Ibrahim passed away. Many Sahaba passed away during his lifetime. His very beloved and supporting wife Khadija al-Kubra radiallahu anha passed away in Makkah. Yet Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not observe their birthdays, nor did he celebrate their anniversaries, not celebrate or hold any function on their death anniversaries, the annual date of their death. Nor did he advise any of his followers to celebrate his own birthday on Rabiul Awwal. So then the question comes, okay, so what's the big deal? Why is it wrong if you do so? The reason why, number one, is that abstinence from such celebrations is better, is that these celebrations divert our attention from the real teachings of Islam towards the observance of certain formal activities only. We go away from the spirit of Islam and create other things. Initially, the celebrations may begin with utmost piety, best intentions, that we are paying homage to certain pious individuals of the past. But the nature of a celebration is such that it has to be ultimately infused with an element of merrymaking and rejoicing. Otherwise, what's the point of celebration? And generally it becomes confused with secular festivals, and eventually sinful activities creep in gradually and become part of the practice. So you have open mixing of men and women, you have musical festivals, and you're having all of these, and what is the unwan, what is the title? Is that we're celebrating the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nowadays there's a practice, of course, you might have come across, it was sent to me also, the link of where they have breaking the world records in building and making the biggest cakes, birthday cakes. So there are so many tons of flour, so many tons of sugar, so many tons of, and then they weigh it and they say there's so many, the height is the tallest cake in the world, the heaviest cake in the world, breaking all the records. And who is these birthday cakes for? These birthday cakes apparently are for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is what is part of our deen. People think that building birthday cakes which are taller than several stories tall and have so much wastage of resources, and then how much of that is eaten, how much is thrown away, and this is now a birthday cake to celebrate the birthday of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So look at what happened to Christmas. Originally, the feast was innovated to commemorate the birth of Isa alayhi salam, and obviously we would imagine to remember his teachings. But then once it had been recognized as a feast, all the secular elements of public festivals, they crept in. So we quote, it says that for several centuries, Christmas was solely a church anniversary observed by religious services. They used to originally in the beginning just have ibadah on Christmas. But as Christianity spread amongst the people of pagan lands, many of the practices of the winter solstice were blended with those of Christianity. And then Christmas changed and became a combination of religious and secular celebration. So the Christmas tree, the wreaths that they hang on the doors, all of these different rituals that they are, each one has their pagan origin. That's why they bring the evergreen tree, and they say that this has special blessing, the Christmas tree, that all the trees become dead and the leaves fall off the trees. The only tree that remains green is the evergreen tree. So those evergreen trees were brought into the homes and kept there as a sign of life. So then it became, in the holy decked great halls, the feudal lords, the Christianity was celebrated, where hospitality was extended to all friends, tenants, households, sailing, feasting, singing, games, dancing, masquerading. All of these types of activities became part of the celebration. This is enough to show us how an apparently innocent feast of reverence can be converted into a secular festival where merrymaking and seeking enjoyment takes preference over all religious and spiritual activities. So this is what happened. Now, our deen of Islam, being fully aware of this human psychology, it never prescribed nor encouraged observance of birthdays and anniversaries. And when they are made part of the religion, then they are absolutely forbidden. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man ahdatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa raddun." Whoever innovates a practice, makes it part of the deen, that which is not part of the deen, it is rejected. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Kullu muhdathatin bid'ah, wa kullu bid'atin dalalah, wa kullu dalalatin fin nar." Every new thing which is made a part of the deen and said that this is a definite part of the deen which is not established by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is an innovation, and every innovation is misguidance, and every misguidance will take towards the fire. On the last day of Hajj, and the ayah was revealed, "Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum." Today I have completed my deen for you. "Wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati." I have completed my favors upon you. "Wa raditu lakum al-islam deena." I have chosen Islam to be your religion. So it is forbidden for us to add new things to our deen and make it part of our deen. So when did this come into our Islamic practice? Several years, several centuries later, there was one of the kings, even those who practiced it, they said that this was a later day innovation. In the year 604 Hijri, 600 years after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left this world, after the hijrah of Islam, then some of the Islamic kings started observing this date as the birthday of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Particularly, this is problematic because the exact date of the birth of Rasulullah ﷺ is also not 100% confirmed. Because there are different dates that have been suggested by different scholars of seerah. A vast majority of Islamic scholars, believe it or not, this might be surprising to know, they're inclined to hold that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was not born on the 12th of Rabiul Awal, but was born on the 9th. To begin with, the date itself is doubtful. So this difference of opinion regarding the date is another evidence to prove that the observance of the birthday is not part of the religion. Otherwise, its exact date should have been and would have been preserved with accuracy. So what should we do? How should we show our love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Is that we should follow his sunnah, we should study his life, we should gain inspiration from his life, study his biography of sunnah, his noble life. Different aspects of his life have beautiful lessons for us. And it is not showing love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by building a birthday cake to smash all the records, but rather to see how much of his sunnah is in our life. Yes, it is permissible, of course, to hold seerah meetings, seerah conferences, talk about his beloved life in this month or any other month of the year. But we have to know that if we regard it as part of the deen, and that by not holding a seerah conference, then you are not fulfilling the right of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then that is making it into an innovation. Singing poetry in praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, we want to mention that is beautiful, it's permissible. Not in praises of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is permissible. Believing that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam physically comes and presents himself and sits with us in the gathering and presenting a chair for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and saying he's sitting here and all rise in honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course that is not permissible. These are also some of the practices which occur, where a chair is kept for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is believed that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually leaves the Rawda Mubarakah in Madinah Munawwara and comes and sits in that gathering, and everyone stands in the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That would not be permissible. So I have exceeded the time, but I just want to conclude that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, this ummah, and protect our deen from corruption, and let us not follow the footsteps of other religions where they have deviated from the path of guidance of the original revelation and corrupted the message of the prophets that they had sent. This is a unique opportunity for us to reflect on these two dates, yesterday being the 12th of Rabiul Awal, today being the 25th of December. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us on the correct aqeedah and allow us to die with the correct belief and resurrect us with the righteous ones. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Let us